Toss-up 1. Literature. In a poem by this author, A Plank in Reason breaks after the speaker hears mourners treading to and fro during a funeral in her brain. In another work by this poet, one of nature's people is described as a narrow fellow in the grass. This poet also wrote a work in which fields of gazing grain are passed during a carriage ride with immortality and death. For 10 points, name this reclusive poet who lived in Amherst. Toss-up 2. Social Studies. This state's first governor, William Livingston, was the father-in-law of John Jay. In 2001, the governor of this state resigned to head the EPA. In addition to Christine Todd Whitman, its governors included George McClellan and Benjamin Franklin's son, while Woodrow Wilson governed here after a stint as the president of Princeton University. For 10 points, name the state whose governors work out of Trenton. Toss-up 3. Science. Near the north pole of this body is a hexagonal cloud pattern. South of it lies a group of storms termed the Great White Spot. A crater spans almost one-third of the diameter of its moon, Mimas, while a ring system is thought to exist around its moon, Rhea. This planet is orbited by the only moon to have a dense atmosphere, Titan. For 10 points, name this gas giant that boasts a series of prominent rings. Toss-up 4. Science. At the end of the Purex process, a complex of this element is left in kerosene solution. It serves as the energy source for most artificial pacemakers, and its isotope 239 was first made in 1940 by bombarding uranium-238 with neutrons, which causes two beta decay reactions to produce this element. Glenn Seaborg discovered, for 10 points, what heaviest element unstable in fission reactors whose atomic symbol is Pu. Toss-up 5. Science. This process begins with apolysis and is followed by a terminal phase that can involve fluid transfer or inflammation. Exoviae are the remains of this process that occurs between instars, which spiderlings still in eggs may undergo multiple times before hatching. Increased fluid pressure is sometimes used to split the old cuticle in. For 10 points, what process in which arthropods shed their old exoskeletons? Toss-up 6. Literature. The English sentence, "I hate what you've written," contains a free example of this grammatical concept. An example of a non-restrictive one appears in the sentence, "The governor whom I support voted the bill." Such non-restrictive examples are surrounding by commas. The pronouns who, which, and that introduce, for 10 points, what kind of subordinate clause that refers back to a noun from the main clause. Toss-up 7. Fine Arts. Fletcher Henderson made an arrangement for this musician of Jelly Roll Morton's song, King Porter Stomp. With his first band, he played on the NBC radio series Let's Dance. The other members of this quartet were Lionel Hampton, Teddy Wilson, and Gene Krupa. During his band's 1938 performance at Carnegie Hall, he played a solo in Sing Sing Sing. For 10 points, name this king of swing, a clarinist. Toss-up 8, Social Studies. An infection in a broken leg may have caused the death of this man, whose reign saw the reversal of many effects of the Amarna period. Horemheb served as the chief general of this ruler, who was succeeded by his vizier Ai. This husband of Ankhesenamun and son of Akhenaton was the occupant of KV-62, unearthed in 1922 by Howard Carter in the Valley of the Kings. For 10 points, name the boy pharaoh of ancient Egypt. Toss-up 9, Social Studies. Amulets in this religion include white arrows placed in the corners of homes and dogs made of papier-mâché. A purification ritual in this religion involves waving a wand of paper streamers and washing one's hand in salt water. That ritual is called hare. Shrines in this religion contain gates called tori, through which adherents can communicate with kami. For 10 points, name this native Japanese religion. Toss-up 10, Science. This quantity increases by a factor of 1 minus the amplifier gain in the Miller effect. Elastance in this inverse of this quantity, whose magnitude is proportional to the plate area and dielectric constant. A coulomb per volt equals the SI unit for this quantity, whose value is added for circuit elements connected in parallel. Charge storing ability is measured by, for 10 points, what quantity whose SI unit is farad. Toss-up 11, Social Studies. The mouth of Soju Creek lies in this city, whose Loja Way is an important financial district. Numerous historic buildings lie along the Bund, which lies opposite the city's district Podong. The name of this district of Poshi signifies its position on the west bank of the Huangpu River, a tributary of the Yangtze. For 10 points, what city on the East China Sea is China's most populous?
Toss-up number 12, Math. Part of why the Weierstrass function is notable is that it has this property everywhere. The mean value theorem requires this property on a closed interval, and an integrand lacking this property somewhat in the bounds of integration is a reason to call an integer improper. Differentiability requires, for 10 points, what property in which a function equals its limits so its graph can be drawn without lifting the pen. Toss-up number 13, Fine Arts. This artist showed girls in white pinafores standing near a giant vase in The Daughters of Edwin Darley Boyd. Two girls examine Japanese lanterns in a garden in his carnation, lily, lily, rose. He painted a woman peering off to the right as she rests her hand on a table in a portrait of Virginie Gautreau wearing a controversially revealing black dress. For 10 points, name this American painter of Madame X.
Toss-up 14, Fine Arts. A boat-shaped nautical club in this country was designed by a member of its modernist architecture movement, known as Gatepack. Colorful mosaic tiles decorate the facade of an equilibrated building in this country. An architect from this country designed the Casa Balataio and Casa Mila and left unfinished the Serragata Familia. For 10 points, name this country whose architects include Antoni Gaudiotti. Toss-up 15, Mathematics. Pencil and paper ready. Joe needs to choose a pin for his debit card, and wanting something he can compute if he forgets it, decides to select the only 4-digit number that is a factorial. Joe knows that 4 factorial is 24, so 5 factorial must be 120, and he quickly deduces that 7 factorial must have 4 digits. For 10 points, what 4-digit number does Joe choose for his pin?
Toss-up number 16, Literature. One character in this novel believes that Sunlight tries to hide from her mother and recreates the title object out of seaweed. Mistress Hibben insinuates that another character in this novel keeps his hand over his heart to hide the black man's mark. Roger Chillingworth torments the minister Arthur Dimmesdale in this novel after Hester Prynne commits adultery. For 10 points, name this novel by Nathaniel Hawthorne. Toss-up number 17, Social Studies. This man was given the code name Peanut by General Joseph Stilwell. Many of his followers met this man as cadets at the Whampoa Military Academy, which this man ran until the death of Sun Yat-sen. After Sun's death, this man became the head of the party he had founded, the Kuomintang. After his defeat, he fled to Taiwan. For 10 points, name this nationalist leader defeated by the communists in the Chinese Civil War.
Toss-up 18, Science. This organelle's function may be described as a maturation model, and its discovery involved in silver nitrate stain, the black reaction. A network in it utilizes vesicles to complete the release stage of its function. That trans network is one type, along with the medial and cis types of its cisternae. For 10 points, one organelle that modifies and packages proteins for transport is named for its Italian discoverer.
Toss-up number 19, Math. Pencil and paper ready. Barbara needs to know how many boxes will be required to build a step pyramid. Her plans call for a bottom level that measures 5 boxes by 5 boxes, with the next level being 4 by 4, and so on, until the top level, which requires a single box. By calculating the number of boxes in each level and then summing, Barbara computes, for 10 points, what number of boxes. Toss-up number 20, literature. This poem describes stars that watered heaven with their tears, and considered the hand that might dare to seize fire from distant deeps or skies. Another stanza in this poem considers the deadly terrors of an anvil that was once held in a dread grasp. The title being off of this poem is asked, "Did he who made the lamb make thee?" For 10 points, name this William Blake poem about an animal described as burning bright. Toss-up number 21, miscellaneous. This color names a cross in G.K. Chesterton's first Father Brown story, as well as laws restricting commercial activities on Sundays. This color appears in the title of a painting thought to depict Jonathan Buttall and in the title of a work for piano and jazz band that opens with a clarinet glissando. For 10 points, what color labels a Thomas Gainsborough painting of a boy and a George Gershwin Rhapsody? Toss-up number 22, math. Pencil and paper ready. Beth began a 2-part trip with an unknown number of gallons of gas. She used 7/10 of her fuel on the first part of the trip, then used 3/5 of the remainder on the second part. Given that she ended with 2.4 gallons, her initial amount can be found by first computing the gallons remaining after the first phase. For 10 points, how many gallons of gas did Bev have at the beginning? Toss-up number 23, math. A Steinmetz solid is the intersection of 2 or 3 of these shapes. Graphs drawn on the surface of one have a Euler characteristic of 0, and maps on their surface may require as many as 6 colors. This shape gave its name to a coordinate system that adds a height, z, to polar coordinates, and its total surface area equals 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi rh. For 10 points, name this solid made by moving a circle through space. Toss-up number 24, literature. Employed to kill Polydectes and Phineus, this offspring of Phorcys and Ceto had been transformed after offending Athena. She was sister to the immortal Citheno and Euryale, and conceived Chrysaor and Bellerophon's winged horse upon her own decapitation. Perseus, with the help of a mirrored shield, slew, for 10 points, what snake-haired monstrosity able to turn onlookers into stone?